Okay, this is Jolie here for Title Sports Network. I am delighted, really am, to be joined by Don Charles here today. The biggest fight that anyone could be involved in, right? Wembley Stadium headline act with Daniel Dubois. But first things first, Don, it's been a while. We saw each other in Saudi Arabia, of course, but it's really good to see you again. How are you?
Likewise, good to see you also. God is great.
100%. It's, as we can see, one of the biggest cards a lot of us here have been involved with. For yourself, how special is it to be headlining with Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium?
It's what dreams are made of. When I first came into the sport, as a coach, that's what you aspire to be at or to get to, and we're here. And yeah, I've done the journey as a coach, so I'm kind of familiar with such occasions, but it doesn't get any bigger than this.
Let's talk about the trajectory of Daniel Dubois under your tutelage. Let's say it feels like he's just gone from strength to strength to strength.
Yeah, most definitely. Obviously, it doesn't happen by accident. We're doing something to encourage, to aid that ascendancy order. I have to credit the previous coaches before I use the word inherited Daniel Dubois. I've always said that. So the coaches he had from day one when he turned professional, including the amateur coach, everybody plays a role. It's almost like that of a relay. You run your leg and you hand the baton over to the next person, and they run a good leg. You stand a good chance of winning the race, and that's exactly what's happened with Daniel Dubois' career to date. From the previous coaches, I acknowledge every single one of them. Yeah, the baton changes have been very, very good, and I hope not to drop the baton and cross the line and win gold.
100%. Let's talk about the journey, and if you fancy picking out where it all started and then some key points along the way to get to where we are today.
It's a long story that I don't...
With Daniel, of course.
With Daniel, yeah, it's still a long story because, as you know, we've merely been together for 12 months. It's exactly 12 months we've been together, and the fights that he's had presented to himself in the last 12 months, incredible. First there was Usyk, who's now the undisputed world champion. Then the loudmouth American Baby Miller, who took care of him. Daniel took care of him, and then Hogovic, who was like being portrayed as the next heir to the throne. And you saw what happened in Riyadh. So, really and truly, it's unbelievable, but it's happened, and this is God's work. Yeah, it's God's work. What's happening, and long may it continue.
How do you put it into the reign or the trajectory of Anthony Joshua? Both fighters in this main event are on quite form.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, in his side, what he's done is remarkable. I don't think we've actually celebrated this. I've always been a champion in Anthony Joshua. Unfortunately, I'm training somebody who has to fight him because I do know him very well. But this is the business we're in the heavyweight business. What he's done for British boxing and what he's done for world boxing, and in particular British boxing, is I don't think, like I said, we've actually celebrated him like we should. Anthony Joshua, this is.
Your man, though, however, is now the IBF world champion. Tell us about how you found out about the news.
It was just like how everybody found out about it. It was online. In fact, it was my son who called me. He said, Dad, you know, George, come here a minute.
George, yeah.
Yeah, come here a minute. My son, George, who's here, the young man was asking me, how did I find out about Daniel being elevated or promoted? I said, my son here called me, said, Dad. I said, really? He said, yes, really. And yeah, and we're here. And you know, but in my head, the way my head works, it's a vacant belt in my opinion. We're gonna go in there with a champion's mentality and consolidate and then make it so it's real. Yeah, because that belt should have been around Daniel's waist in Riyadh a few weeks ago. So it's here now, and we have to fight to get it.
How good is it that it is here now, though, George?
Listen, I'm happy for my father. It's been a long road. Like people a lot, you know, as you guys know, when this goes out to the platforms, you have all the people at home that have their opinions, that throw their 2 pence in, and I respect that. When you're in a public arena, you'll always be subject to people's opinions. That's just a fact. That's just the nature of the game of entertainment. But no one knows the graft, the hard work, the consistency, the focus, the education that goes on behind the scenes. And for me as a son to see that come to fruition, all come together, I couldn't be happier for my old man. Trust me, when I say you works, this.
For Daniel, and for
Yeah,
Daniel,
but
you know,
of course, but-
he has to get it. I know I'm your father, but the fighter gets in the ring and fights.
No doubt, no doubt. But Daniel has enough fans worldwide, enough people speak on his behalf. At the end of the day, you're my father, and that's.
I understand.
How do you beat a man like Anthony Joshua? He's on a KO streak at the moment too.
Yeah, that will be telling, and I'm not prepared to tell today. That will be told on the 21st of September.
We've seen Daniel Dubois a bit more spiteful in his words before fights now. I don't know if it's a new side to him, but he seems to be putting some force and fear into his opponent's eyes. Are we going to see that at the press conference?
It's all part of his development on all aspects. So, look who we've got here. My other son. Where's my son? Oh,
Yeah, get out
Delicious
of the way,
Television.
Get out of the way.
Delicious.
Get out
Is
of
it?
the way.
Are we on Delicious?
Get out of the way. Get
It's
that
my-
out of the way.
It's my first born. For all you listeners. For
Two interviews in
all
one.
you listeners, this is my firstborn. My firstborn. The crazy one.
Who are we
We were standing here with Don Charles. Delicious!
There you have it.